So I recently finished painting my Death Company because nothing says hobby therapy like endlessly edge highlighting the armour of a genetically engineered super soldier who's actively hallucinating the death of his angelic space dad. And now I've got a full squad of these black armoured lunatics staring at me like they're waiting to be unleashed on a Xenos horde, or my next bad day. I figured it's the perfect time to talk a little bit about their lore while I show off some of my finished miniatures. Think of this as like a grimdark show and tell, except instead of like a macaroni picture, it's a jetpack wearing chainsaw maniac screaming about the siege of terror. So grab a drink, pull up a chair or sit on the floor like me, and let's talk about the glorious, tragic, absolutely insane world of the Death Company while I humbly present my freshly painted, slightly messy but very enthusiastic squad of sad vampire lads with anger issues. Quick side note, my videos are made by a beginner, that's me, for a beginner. So if you're also new to the hobby, struggling to get your highlights right, or just wondering why that one purity seal keeps falling off again, you're absolutely in the right place with friends. Before you start expecting golden demon level brushwork, just let me be upfront, I am very new to this. Like, I bought my army second-hand on eBay only in April. New. So here's the deal. In the grim dark universe of Warhammer 40k, where there's only war and zero emotional support, the Death Company is like a unique unit from the Blood Angel Space Marine chapter. You know the superhuman vampire angel space guys that I never shut up about? Well, when I say unique, I mean absolutely wild in the coolest way possible. These guys, they're cursed with something called the Black Rage, which sounds like a lost Dungeons and Dragons supplement from like the 90s, but it's actually the kind of battle-induced madness. Think of it like going full Hulk, but with more tragic backstory and fewer stretchy pants. They were permanently stuck, reliving the glorious but ultra-traumatic death of their angelic primarch Sanguinius. Basically, space version of like Aragon meets Johnny Bravo if he had wings and got murked by like Satan with crab claws, aka Horus. Now once they fall into the rage, they don this black armour of the Death Company, marked with the symbolic wounds of their primarch, like a walking tribute concert to a war god. They're terrifying. They're screaming into battle with chainswords and jetpacks like they're auditioning for Mad Max 40k. And on the battlefield, they're absolute legends. Think Worf if he stopped asking for permission. The dust settles, the war drums stop, there's no coming back. There's no spa day, there's no group therapy, they're too far gone for that. The Blood Angels do what they must, and to honour them and execute them. It's like Old Yeller, but if the dog had just disemboweled 3 orc war bosses before going out. So yeah, they're tragic, they're brutal, they're insanely cool, the Death Company. Part warrior, part cursed angel, or metal. If we start by looking at the origin of the Black Rage, so picture this. It's the 31st millennium, humanity is in full meltdown mode, and the galaxy is basically on fire. Then we've got Horus Heresy, aka the ultimate family feud in space. If you've got 41 minutes to spare, there's a video at the end that might interest you. It's hitting its crescendo at this point. On one side, you've got the forces of chaos led by Horus, the War Master with serious daddy issues, and on the other side, the Imperium of Man, commanded by the Emperor of Mankind himself, who's basically Space Jesus with a power sword and zero tolerance policy on heresy. Now, all the Space Marine legions had their primarchs, who are superhuman dads cloned from the Emperor's own DNA. And most of those legions, they loved their primarchs, like they were part divine being, part football coach, but no one worshipped their gene dad like the Blood Angels did with Sanguinius. Think Mufasa, if he was the superhuman and also an angel and had the emotional sensitivity of like Jean-Luc Picard. The guy could paint, he could fly, he could decapitate a demon prince all before breakfast. And how did it end? Just with Sanguinius facing Horus alone aboard the Vengeful Spirit, his flagship of doom. And yeah, Horus straight up murdered him with his unholy crab claw of chaos. It wasn't just tragic, it was Shakespeare meets John Wick in space. This wasn't just a sad day for the Blood Angels, it was like a cataclysmic psychic gut punch. Imagine your soul screaming like a woman at in the crowd of a Def Leppard concert for the first time, while also your DNA is getting scrambled like a cursed omelette. That's cool. That moment, it left a permanent mark on their genetic code, not just a metaphorical ouch, that hurt, but a literal psychic scar across the entire Blood Angels bloodline. Fast forward a few decades, after a big galactic dust-up, the Imperium, it reorganises the legions into much smaller chapters, like breaking up your favourite band so they don't go full chaos. The real, weirdness begins. So among the Blood Angels and their new successor chapters, as something is lingering, right? Sure, they've got the Red Thirst, and that was already a thing. It's like this vampire-light bloodlust they try really hard to keep in check with lots of incense and shouting, but this was different. It was darker, deeper, like sad poetry, scrawled in blood on a bolter casing. It wasn't just bloodlust. It was grief that just never healed. And they call it many things: the Primarch's curse, the Chaplain's vigil, the fate. But most just whisper it on the eve of battle, like they're in a haunted episode of Star Trek and they Trek, Star Trek, and they call it, we're whispering, right? So let's get to the mic. The Black Rage. Right, so the Blood Angels. Our favourite winged, brooding, red-armoured vampire lads. Well, they're not winged. One of them was winged and now he's dead. They're unique among Space Marines. I've said it multiple times, but why? Because they're still haunted by the death of their big space dad, Sanguinius, physically haunted. So 10,000 years later, and they're still reliving that moment like a traumatic home video on loop. Imagine if every time you went to sleep, you dreamed about your ancient ancestor getting shanked by Space Lucifer. That's Tuesday for a Blood Angel. This is what kicks off something called the Black Rage, which isn't just a cool band name, it's a full-blown mental meltdown where a Blood Angel literally thinks he's Sanguinius dying at the hands of Horus. And it sounds fun, right? But it's not. It's getting worse. Time has not been kind. Every new generation, more rage, more madness. It's like a bad family curse mixed with a really, really aggressive VR simulation that just never turns off. The Blood Angels already have another problem, like I mentioned, the Red Thirst, which is basically space vampirism meets rage issues. That one's more manageable. It's kind of like knowing your mate can get rowdy after a few drinks, but you've got a system, you know how to manage him. The Black Rage, full on blackout. There's no cure, there's no coming back. Except for one guy, and we'll get to him later on in the video. But when a Blood Angel starts getting those cursed Sanguinius flashbacks, the Chaplains, they start paying very close attention. Because once a Space Marine goes full Sanguinius cosplay mode, he gets suited up in black armour and inducted into the Death Company. And that's the Emperor's way of saying, thanks for your service, now go berserk until you die gloriously in combat, in equal parts honour and we can't help you, so just go nuts on the front lines and then die. Yeah. Different chapters handle the curse in often very Warhammer ways. So the Lamenters, they tried to science it away. Big brain moves too. Too bad it backfired spectacularly. But now they're even more cursed than before. Good effort though, right guys? The Templars of Blood. So these guys, they're brutal. No Death Company here. If you show signs of the Black Rage, they strip you down to just your combat knife and power armour. They slap you on the battlefield and they say, good luck, champ. And if you survive, congratulations. Now, here's a medal and a bullet to the face, but you will be remembered. And then we have the wild card, Mephiston, aka the one guy in 10 millennia who actually pulled himself out of the Black Rage. That's like being the only guy to beat Soulsborne boss on your first day, blindfolded while on fire. Now, during the Second War of Armageddon, he went full Death Company mode, got buried under a building for a week, classic Warhammer, and he came back stronger. Psychica, and possibly undead. No one agrees how it happened. Was it a miracle? Is he now a mutant? A mythic reboot? All of the above, maybe. The point is, Mephiston's experience is either inspiring or terrifying. Because if he overcame the Black Rage, does that mean someone else could? Or does it mean you have to die to break free of it and just hope the Emperor hits respawn? It's a tough call. The Black Rage usually starts off slow. You get nightmares, visions, Sanguinius showing up in your dreams, doing dramatic Shakespeare speeches and dying a lot, and then it creeps into your day-to-day life. You're supposed to be training and instead you're weeping and screaming about Horus. Your squad mates start giving you the side eye. Eventually you snap, and when you do, it's over. You don't know who's who anymore. That orc might be a traitor Marine from 10,000 years ago. That tech Marine looks a lot like your best mate who died at the Siege of Terror. You're not in the present anymore. You're fighting ghosts in a war that ended when VHS was still a thing. So when that happens, the Chaplains step in. Those skull-faced gothic space preachers with voices like James Earl Jones with a hangover. They take you in, they suit you up in sacred morning black, and they point you to the enemy. And then you fight. You don't follow plans, you don't strategize, you rage, you kill, you die. And that's the Death Company. Heroes, monsters, martyrs, all burning out in a glorious blaze of chainswords and misplaced memories. There's no cure, there's no second chance, unless you're Mephiston. But let's be real, you're probably not Mephiston. For most part, blood angels falling to the Black Rage is like getting hit by a truck made of emotion, nostalgia, or an ancient psychic trauma. 1 minute you're polishing your bolter and reciting your battle oaths like a good little superhuman soldier, and the next you're in full-blown ghost flashback mode, reliving a battle from 10,000 years ago. It hits fast, it hits hard, and it hits weird. And suddenly your squad mates look like the dead heroes of the Siege of Terror. Your enemies all morph into chaos traitors, and your mind's playing like the best of Sanguinius' greatest death scenes on repeat. Luckily, the Blood Angels, they don't leave it all to fate. They do have a support system, grimdark style. So you enter, like I mentioned, the Chaplains, and then you've got sanguinary priests, who are like the galaxy's most serious hype men and medics. These guys, they are part of a battlefield therapist, part war pope, part human lie detector. They're constantly watching for telltale signs that a battle brother's starting to go Black Rage mode. So when they do spot it, which is you're usually drawing those Warhammer style heart-to-hearts the night before the big battle. Picture this. Every Blood Angel kneels before their chaplains, chanting different chants, right? Basically, which is like the Warhammer version of warming up before a concert, and answering for the state of their soul. If one of them slurs a line, stares too long into the void, or starts weeping about Sanguinius again, the chaplains, they start making notes, like a grim celestial HR department. And if you're on the edge of glory and you're pulled from the lineup immediately. It's like being told you're not cleared for duty, but instead of paperwork, you're spiritually radioactive. In times of peace, you get locked away in the Tower of the Lost back on Baal, which is like a gloomy little real estate listing where you'll spend your days screaming about betrayal and destiny under the ever-watchful glaze of the chaplains. Think padded cell meets Gothic cathedral with a strong whiff of incense and despair. But in times of war, oh buddy, they slap you into the iconic black armour of the Death Company, and they give you a chainsword, and they point you in the general direction of everything that needs to die, because if you're going to go out, you might as well do it covered in glory, screeching battle hymns, while carving through heretics. So yeah, the Black Rage is just a one-way ticket, but the Blood Angels make sure their brothers ride it like legends, guided by sermons, fury, and a whole lot of righteous fury. They don't just go down swinging, they go down like legends in eyeliner, howling for Sanguinius beneath a blood-red sky. So let's get something straight right off the bat. No Blood Angel's commander is just tossing his Death Company lads at the enemy like discount cannon fodder. These aren't black-armoured rage gremlins you deploy and forget. They're fallen brothers, literally. So see, the Blood Angels, emo space vampires though they may be, they have a surprising amount of soul. Not like jazz or saxophone solos, but actual emotional depth. Sanguinius, their winged space dad, was basically the angelic philosopher warrior type. Like I said earlier on, arrogant, Johnny Bravo, even like Legolas meets Mr. Miyagi, right? So when one of their own falls to the Black Rage, they don't just shrug and are like, he's gone again, that one's gone. Yeah, we'll send him in with a grenade. Good luck, brother. See you never. No, they treat these poor, mad lads with respect. So yes, the Death Company is terrifying and effective. Yes, they are absolutely off their rocker, but the Blood Angels, they don't waste them in like meaningless charges. They use them strategically, as you would with any other incredibly angry, hallucinating superhuman tank with a chainsword and a death wish. And here's the really tragic part, right? Every single Blood Angel knows he's probably headed there someday. That black armour isn't just for drama, it's kind of a preview of your future. It's the Astartes version of looking in the mirror and seeing yourself with thinning hair and a bad back, except the reflection also wants to decapitate a demon prince. As one ancient litany says, it is our duty to know the difference between the doomed and the damned. It's pretty poetic, considering it's basically the Warhammer equivalent of, there, but for the grace of the Emperor I go. But let's not pretend this compassionate approach is universal. Some successor chapters are brutal. The flesh tearers, absolute psychos. If one of their battle brothers so much as gets a dreamy look in his eye, he's fast-tracked to the front lines with a jetpack and a one-way ticket to chain axe heaven. Angels Numinous, Flesh Eaters, Golden Suns, RIP, same story. Theirs is not a gentle HR process. Now, when the Death Company goes to war, it's absolutely glorious chaos. No uniform loadouts here. Each one charges in with whatever gear they used before losing their marbles. Bolters, chainswords, power weapons. Some of them probably bring the bolter they made in Scouts and just never let go of. Think garage sale of violence. Higher ups sometimes get blessed relics like thunder hammers or power swords because, hey, just because they're doomed doesn't mean they can't look cool on your way out. Many chapters, they strap jump packs to their black-clad lunatics and they toss them holy grenades like right into the enemy's face. It's a strategy best described as aggressive redeployment with screaming. And yes, some chapters treat their black rages like expendable resources, but even then their sacrifices often save the day. You'll find dusty tomes in fortress monasteries filled with tales of Death Company squads holding the line against impossible odds so their brothers could win the war. It's tragic, it's noble, it's very Warhammer. But if we talk about combat, they do not stop. Gunfire doesn't register. Losing an arm, not even a speed bump. Internal bleeding, broken bones and missing lungs, just details. Pain and fear are luxuries for people not reliving their Primarch's final moments in 24/7 Ultra HD brain cinema. They're like that one guy in every action movie who gets shot 7 times and still punches out a tank. Some scholars even think this unstoppable fury is Sanguinius shining through at the last. Even in their madness, his nobility burns on like a dying flashlight of honor in a hurricane of rage. It's brutal, it's beautiful, it's metal as hell. But eventually the rage, it burns out, the fire ends, and their bodies finally catch up with what they've been through. If they hadn't died on the battlefield, they collapse like a band that played too hard at the encore, and then back to the Tower of the Lost, strapped into a stasis pod or chained up until the next war. They'll scream and dream until they're needed again. And sometimes, just sometimes, the Black Rage doesn't take 1 or 2 Marines, it takes everyone. Entire strike forces have been swallowed whole by the curse, like some psychotic plague of sadness and fury. One example is right before the Aurorius landings, every single battle brother got hit by the full Sanguinius flashback, and the result was they still deployed. No leaders, no sanity, just a wall of like howling maniacs in black armor crashing into the Eldari war host like a ceramite freight train. No tactics, no formations, just pure unfiltered rage. And you know what? It worked. The Eldari lines, they shattered under the assault. Even with like fancy guns and alien precision, they couldn't stop the Black Tide. It took them 5 days to wipe out the strike force, but by then the damage was done. The Death Company, it may be doomed, but they're far from useless. They are fury made flesh, and the galaxy is a very, very big punch bag. But who are the key players? So we've got Lamatis, who are the screaming skull pope, I guess, known as the guardian of the lost Lamatis. He's the Death Company's spiritual bouncer. He's a chaplain who's got the Black Rage himself, but instead of going full psycho, he uses that fury like a turbo boost. Imagine if like Bruce Banner got angry, stayed angry, and then just became a better public speaker. His sermons are so intense. Even like frothing lunatics pause to say, yeah, you know what, yeah. He's making a good point there. Then we've got Arafat, like the black-clad battle chaplain with a jetpack. He's the GPS for Strike Force Mortalis, raving lunatics, shouting holy catchphrases whilst flying over the battlefield like Batman crossed with a motivational TED Talk guy. His armour's like pure black, except for one shoulder plate. Because fashion matters, right? Even in the madness. Think if the Grim Reaper was also your group's like life coach. Daenor is like Mr. Calm in a storm of chainswords. You know that one dad at the barbecue who stays chill even when the grill explodes? That's Daenor, except the grill is a war zone and everyone around him is screaming about ancient angelic visions, never cracked, never cursed, always ready with a calm voice. Basically Mr. Rogers of the Reclusium if Mr. Rogers wore skulls and could bench a tank. Then we've got High Chaplain Carnarvon, he's the guy who watched too many friends go mad. Like he watched over the Flesh Terror's Death Company for nearly 250 years. That's like a quarter millennium of stress, sorrow, and very loud yelling. He was like a grizzled principal of a school where all the students eventually go berserk. Tragically, he finally snapped during the devastation of Baal and went out swinging in Death Company black, RIP to the gothest dad in space, right? Captain Erasmus Tycho, the golden boy gone dark, originally the next big thing in Blood Angels combat. Then an orc weird boy literally blew off half his face, not a metaphor, half his face, wore a mask like the Phantom of the Opera but angrier, and then eventually gave in to the Black Rage and went out in a blaze of glory. If you love a tragic anti-hero arc with lots of rage and bolter fire, Tycho's your guy. Sanguinary priest, Lamentarius. So while the White Knight of the gene recycling, the one in the crew not completely losing it, his job is to scoop up fallen gene seed like a grimdark organ donor courier. He dives into the thick of the fighting in shining white armour, like a space cleric and a meat grinder. Seriously, imagine Patch Adams with a chainsaw and a DNA sample kit. Brother Ophalos is living on a prayer and pure rage. He spent decades barely hanging on to sanity, and then an orc ripped out his eye, and down the spiral we go. By the time the Cryptus campaign rolled around, he wasn't seeing aliens. He was seeing old traitor war machines, because when reality is optional, every battlefield's a flashback episode. Brother Helorius, now black armour, black mood, flesh terror, fell into the rage during the madness on Lysos. His brothers did what any good friends would do. They painted him up in sacred black, scribbled some cool symbols all over his gear, and sent him into battle screaming like a demon with a caffeine problem. And basically, the Wicker Man meets Gears of War. Brother Rafari bolters, bling, the Black Rage. He's rocking full tactical gear. And the Death Company drip. Think old school marine loadout with way more purity seals and skull motifs. It's like the Black Rage themed fashion show hosted by Cenobite. Functionally mad, but stylish as hell. Brother Hellstone, the Screaming Tomb with guns, one of the infamous Death Company dreadnoughts. Picture a haunted tank filled with space marine rage, metal and regret. He fights because there's literally nothing else left. Rest, no. Peace, no. Netflix, no. Just endless. War in an adamantium coffin. Think RoboCop, but depressed and 10 times louder. Then we've got the Fury of Ages, because one screaming coffin tank wasn't enough. Another Death Company dreadnought, giant, angry, ancient, full of hate and hydraulics, fought alongside Hellstone. And also Precarious, like a trio of cursed Gundams, filled with righteous fury. Imagine Pacific Rim, but the pilots are having an existential crisis about a guy with wings who died 10,000 years ago. Mariah the Chosen, Death Company's final boss, originally Captain Morello, got wrecked, got put in a dreadnought and immediately said, yeah, I remember being Sanguinius. Most people get a pep talk and a stasis nap. Mariah got fangs, rage and maybe a custom blood-slurping module installed in his chases. Truly the only guy who could be called chosen in a unit full of already doomed legends. Pagurius, who I mentioned a minute ago, the forgotten, but not really forgotten if he's in the list, the third part of the Dreadnought Rage trio from Cryptus. His name's a whole mood. Just imagine being the one guy at the gig who didn't get their own merch line, still fought like a beast, still turned the tide, just, you know, slightly less famous than Mariah, underrated. Pick for your Death Company Dreadnought fantasy draft though. So, to wrap it all up, what have we learned? It's a great question, if you're still here. What have we learned today? First, if your name starts with brother and ends in Ius, your odds of falling to the Black Rage are alarmingly high. Second, being in the Death Company is like joining the galaxy's angriest boy band, black outfits, emotional issues, and every performance ends in a blood-soaked encore. From Chaplains holding the line with motivational speeches that could scare a motivational speaker, to dreadnoughts so mad they've turned into 30-ton metal screen containers. One thing is crystal clear, the Death Company is Warhammer 40k's answer to go big or go home, except they skipped home and they went straight to eternal screaming battlefield, and yet somehow it's kind of noble. Tragic. Metal as hell. These guys are basically walking cautionary tales with chainswords, and we love them for it. So next time you paint up a Death Company Marine, just remember, under that black armour, the blood-spattered rage is just a space bro who really just wanted to serve the Emperor, sip some recycled nutrient paste and not have psychic flashbacks of his 10,000-year-old angel dad getting murdered. But alas, this is Warhammer. And in the grim dark future, therapy is a chainsaw to the face. Oh, that's not funny either, is it? Anyway, if you're still here, thank you so much, and I'm only going to implore you one time to please do all those things you need to do to support my tiny channel, and I hope to see you in the next video.